All
Hey
right.
everybody. Hey, we
Coding
got
after
Luke
30.
here. What's up, man? So before
Hello.
we
Thank you for
start,
having me.
you're welcome. We got Luke here. We're gonna talk about the reality of being a self-taught developer because there's so much myth and hype, and every video you see on YouTube just makes it easy. Like anybody could do it. Like your grandmother could like do it, and your uncle and your cat or whatever. And so, what I like to do is like talk to people who are actually in the journey of being self-taught developers, learn to code, and really, going through the process, learning the stuff, like what was the process, why they chose the tech that they chose, and what it's been like. Because I think you guys all need to hear the reality, the truth. And so, Luke, welcome.
Let's
It's
do it.
awesome to
Thank you
have you
so much
here.
for having me.
Yeah. So
This is
before we
really cool for me. I'm your number one fan.
bro, like, yeah, no, I love it, I love it. But it's funny, like when you said that to me, that still doesn't register in my head because I still think of myself like some random dude on YouTube who I don't even know why people
Oh,
listen to.
please.
But before
Dude,
we
when Saturday night, your Saturday night stream is so helpful. When I'm like, I'm too stupid. I'm never going to get this. Oh my God, I'm going to be a software tester forever. But that you're there on Saturday night when I'm ignoring my family to work on coding
Nice.
means the world to me. It's very
Oh, that's
motivating.
that's awesome. I
And you
gotta.
say that it's hard. You're like the only person that says that it's hard. One of the only
It's
people.
fucking
And
hard.
that's
It's hard.
important.
It's so hard. Like people don't get it. Like
Yeah.
it's insane. But before we dive too much deeper,
Okay.
why don't you give us like a brief introduction, like to who you are, how you got interested in code, what you did before, what was your reasoning
Okay.
for being like I want to switch careers, and
Yes.
all that good
So
stuff.
I'll give you the whole sad story. So my name is Luke Avedon. I'm now 37. I only mention because it's coding after 30, so that I'm in the club. So basically, I've always had a pull towards coding, but I tried teaching myself a couple times. When I was a kid, I did Basic, and then there was HyperCard for Mac. It always went horribly. As soon as it got hard, I would give up right away. And then in college, I took a Java class because it was like I should learn an actual skill to make myself employable after college. And it went so badly. I was by far the worst student in this class at Java. That literally people like at parties would say, "Hey, there's that guy who's so terrible at Java and can't make anything work." And my first date with my now wife, I had to stand her up and cancel it at the last second. She bought us tickets to see the band Java Opeth class, and I had to stand her up because my computer science teacher was like, "You can't program anything. You are so terrible. Like, if you can't make a single Java program run, you're not going to graduate college."
Oh my gosh.
So that was such a traumatic experience. I was like, "There's no way I can ever become a software engineer." It was the furthest thing from my mind. So then in my 20s, my career went okay. I was in construction for a while, and I had a little construction and real estate investment little business, and I could live off the rental income pretty well. And I was like, I'm way ahead of the game. I'm in my 20s, making money. And then I totally messed everything up, and it completely imploded. And then by the time I was 30, right when I got married to my then wife, my career was really going in a bad place. And I kept trying to start businesses to get it going again because I was so addicted to being an entrepreneur. But I did not tell my wife that I was having all these financial problems. So I even borrowed money to keep going. And that was a very, very bad thing to do. So this was like 2014. And then I got a job as a software tester that was part time. And it was cool because while I was trying to create all these businesses in a very pathetic way, I could work this job. Or it eventually got to the point where they're like, you can work for 2 weeks and then take 2 weeks off. So I kept doing that while I was doing all sorts of things from like selling used equipment to selling used sandwich making machines to exporting artisanal cheese to Japan and all these things. But I never really made enough money to quit my job. Then, when my son was born almost 2 years ago, May 28th, 2020, at the height of the pandemic, I was like, okay, I have got to get my stuff together. I cannot just be this, not just that I was making almost no money at 36, but I was turning into this incredibly bitter person who absolutely hated my job and hated, like, consumed with regret that I had made such terrible life decisions. And I didn't want to be that kind of role model. That was really bad. So that's when I made the intention. I'm like, I'm going to become a software engineer because I work for engineers and they're brilliant. And I saw as a software tester, the place I worked for ran a really, really tight ship. So I was like, as a Q&A tester, this is really quite terrible. But I love software engineering. So my way in for studying, and then I'll stop rambling, was
No, go on. Go on.
there was these really difficult tests that I would have to pass just to get the job, and then keep working there every month, like twice a month. So I was looking at unusual studying techniques for how to pass tests and things. So I got really obsessed with spaced repetition software, namely SuperMemo and Enki. And I became completely obsessed with SuperMemo to the point when I was supposed to be working at work, I would like hang out on Discord and talk about SuperMemo. And I started tutoring pre-med students in SuperMemo just to help them like improve their studies via SuperMemo. And then there was a guy I met doing that who was a C# software engineer. And he starting an open source project, which was a really cool plugin for SuperMemo, which is all closed source, but he had like decompiled a bunch of stuff and did all these like super advanced hacking things. I was like, oh, that's so cool. And I was like, hey, I'm a software tester. Let me help you test it and make videos, even though I'm incompetent. So by helping with that, and you can check it out, it's at supermemoassistant.com. And I'm on the videos there. So I started pestering him, asking him for advice. What's it like to be a C# developer? How do I become a C# developer? And he gave me the advice to start with Vue because he wanted to make a web app to this thing. And it was going to be in Vue. So I started learning Vue in May. I did that for 3 months. I totally hated Vue. And I did not really approach it in the best way. I can get into my weird ways of studying if you like. But then in October 15th, I made the switch to C#, which I like much, much, much more than Vue. So I've been doing that, I think, since October 15th, 2020. And I'm just starting to apply for jobs now. I'm still got a long way to go in terms of studying. So that's my basic story.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I mean, like your story about, having, rental properties and then having that entrepreneurial drive and then having things turn south and then constantly trying to find that next opportunity. It's basically similar to what I did. And the only reason I say this, it's a very hard place to be in when things don't go well and you really feel like there's that one thing that I could do to make things better. And a lot of times it's just a lot of work, a lot of struggle, and it seems like you're not going anywhere. And it does get very depressing. Like I've been divorced, and part of divorce, but that's the reality, is that you'll go to a place where sometimes you can't fix things. And, I just want to say like it's amazing that you're here doing still going forward, switching careers, because what a lot of people kind of don't understand, it's like, you could be in your 20s, you could be in your 30s, you could be in your 40s. Like, I'm 41 now, and we all have moments in our lives where we fall down, and we have the opportunity to change our strategy, think of something different, and we could get back up like on the horse and make the career switch. Just because you're in your late 20s, late 30s, or what have you, doesn't mean that things are over. And the reason why I stuck with coding, because I had a friend, like I used to teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I had a friend
that is so cool.
That used to bring his son there, and like he looked like very well put together. He was like in his early 50s, like had his shit together, and I was just like so impressed. I was like, I want to be like that guy one day. And then one day I was talking to him, I'm like, man, like you got to tell me what the secret is. Like I've been like struggling through certain parts of my life, and I just feel like I'm never gonna like hit that win, like never gonna happen for me. And what he told me, he's like, man, like you look at me now, you should have seen me 10 years ago when I was in my early 40s. He's like, I had a drug problem, like my wife, this is my second wife with my second kid, like the stuff that the family issues we had, like the mistakes that I made, like you would have never guessed. And he literally said to me, it's just like at any time you could decide to make things better and just do the steps that require you to go into the right direction. And it's true, nothing is guaranteed, but I like that story because it showcases that no matter where you are, you could, you know, decide to do something differently as long as you're able to be in good spirit. Even like, I'm sure like, I know you can't be in good spirit all the time, but like before the stream we talked about how you used to say, used to be all doom and gloom, and that's such a terrible attitude to have.
Yeah.
And now I switched to opposite, like why if it does work out, why if things, you know, happen and whatever. And so for me,
safer when you have a kid too.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it is. Yeah, I do. She's 22
That's
and
great,
she's
man.
in the Navy.
22.
Yeah, she's in
Wow.
the Navy. So I don't talk about my
Congratulations.
past a lot because, like, number one, I
sorry.
don't want to scare people, and number two, like, I like. So I'll tell you briefly because I want to talk about you, Luke. But this is just like when I was growing up, I was the example. I was like the black sheep in the family, and I was the example that other parents would be like, just don't be like Paul, don't turn out like Paul, and for the longest time, even when I started learning to code, I had so many naysayers in my own family, like that I had someone stalk my LinkedIn to see, is he really working at a company or is he just lying to everybody? I'm like, you guys, why would I lie about that? No, I want to do, like, I want to change my life. I don't want to lie about my life to others to impress you because that doesn't help me.
Right.
But we got a bunch of people in the chat. Quickly, let me say hello. We got Engine Boy, we got Jose, we got Lucky. What's up, man? Good to see you. Walter's here. Great to see you. Polly the Sensei, Q is here. Love Q. And Engine Boy says, wait, what? But we said so many things in the past 2 minutes that I don't know what he's wait-whatting about. But so Luke, yeah, like all the things that you tell me, and one thing that I was going to say quickly, a lot of people say freelancing, this, so much, so easy to make money. Like, I just want to say, shut the up. Like, entrepreneurial is the hardest thing you could do, and everybody could talk about it, but very small number of people are successful in it, and it's the fact. And
do you think that's the main fantasy people have learning to code, is that they want to be a freelancer?
I think what happens is
like I work code half an hour a day and people will just send me lots of money.
Yeah, that's not how it works.
Anywhere.
But what I'm going to tell you is, like, so I started trying to freelance as a WordPress developer, and I had some abysmal success because it's really hard, like, to get clients. Like, people don't realize it, but it takes a lot of effort to get clients, and you have to have an established reputation to be able to get enough clients to be able to make money. A lot of people don't get that, and it takes a long time to build. So to have I'm one day going to become an entrepreneur, work for myself, that's a pipe dream, because it's not going to ever happen overnight, because you're not going to go from 0 clients to 100 clients. Going from 0 to your first client could take you 6 months, believe it or not. Like it's just hard, and then people could not pay you, whatever. But the point, like, I tried to go the freelancing route, and I realized, even though I'm pretty entrepreneurial, I realized it's way harder than getting hired. And especially I'll give you an example. So I used to teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then I eventually opened up my own business. But before opening up my own business, I became really, really good at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I became really, really good at teaching. And then I worked for somebody else managing their school. So I understood the business. I understood how to run classes. I understood how to get clients. And then when I went on my own freelancing or teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I was pretty much an expert in that area. And I was able to get clients. I was able to run this because I had that experience. But if I just, like, some random dude who had none of that decided to open up a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school, like, people be like some like quack on the side of a road trying to teach martial arts. Like, it's the same thing to me. Like, if someone's trying to go freelancing before they know how to code, before they experience, before they worked for a company, before they understand how to talk to clients, it's like, how are you going to make it? And so it's very hard. But back to you, talking too much.
I was just going to say that was always a mistake I made. I was too much of a narcissist to be like, okay, I need 5 years of industry experience, or I should work in this industry as an employee before I try to do whatever delusion of grandeur project I had. So it's a lot better to start that way. And once you're a senior software engineer, I mean, you're so incredibly valuable. That's what motivates me, is getting through that first 2 years and getting to the senior position when you're on that third job. Um, and I think that is a very exciting place to be. And if you want to do a business thing, you're a very valuable person. You can partner with someone with money
Yep.
and buy a real software company. And you have
Right.
experience actually managing people. Like, why does
See,
everyone want to start at the bottom being a freelancer on Fiverr? Like, you could buy a
don't.
real
Yeah.
software company with real employees if you're really good.
Yeah, and see, you're like a man with reason and very like logical like way of thinking about it. And I wish more people shared the similar thought. I think it comes from experience of actually doing self-employed type of things, like entrepreneur type of things, and realizing it's hard. And so it's like, damn, like there, it's not as. So my thing with like YouTube is that because I've been in sales, you've been in sales. So for us, it's like
Right.
you're like preaching to the choir, but like there's bajillion people who are really good at selling you courses on how to either make money online or how to break into like tech or like what have you, even though they themselves did not make their money that way. They made their money by selling you courses
Right.
or bamboozling. I'm not saying they're bamboozling you. Some people provide real value, but what I'm saying is that what you hear, people talk about, it's like, like all the fashion people or fitness people on Instagram, like I naturally built this body while doing lots of
Right.
steroids. It's like it's a
Right,
facade.
exactly.
It's like they know how they're like if you do any like marketing sales, you could like what strategies they're using. The tricks that they're doing to get like them to sell their product, and it's fine, it's
Selling the
normal,
dream.
but yeah, but they're selling you a dream, they're selling you like a lifestyle, and they don't care if you succeed, like they don't care if Luke or Paul succeed, because their
Right.
message is reaching people on such a high volume that they're still going to make
What
their
do you think
money.
are the biggest lies that they say to new people? Like, it doesn't matter what language you learn.
Yeah.
You can do it for 30 minutes a day.
Yeah.
You can start freelancing right away and get tons of clients.
Yeah.
Um, those are, I would say, the ones that really bug me the most. And I made a mistake where this was not as bad, but I was procrastinating on building a project. So this is like a scared straight to anyone watching this. Don't do this. I was like, okay, I'm procrastinating on starting a project. Anyone I meet that wants any kind of software, I'm just going to build a project because I'll show, oh, I made something for a non-technical user, which is a good um, experience in the sense that you forget how little people know about how software works when you're in it, even if you're new. But the fact that you're a student, you know a lot more. So I was the first project I made was this like dictionary app in the console, and it was really complicated. It was a new Oxford English Dictionary API that was not yet released, but if you were connected to a university, you could get a key. And I love like nerdy history stuff and things.
Yep.
So we made this app together where you could like research words, and you could put in specific dates, and quotes from historical figures would come up for that kind of use of the word. And it was all very nerdy, and it actually integrated with Super Memo, and it was but this guy like we kept drilling down into nerdy stuff that no employer would care about. Like employers want a database,
Yes.
CRUD, a web app,
Yes. Yes.
authentication, basic stuff, business apps, business apps. They don't care about your weird self-indulgent
Yeah.
history project, because by doing all these weird nerdy features, completely neglected making it a web app, learning anything about the web. Because
Yeah.
a console app, no one cares. Like I learned this really cool new library for building complex like console apps like you'd have in Linux or something. But who cares at the end of the day? You can't show that up. So in my mind, I was like, oh, this will only take 2 weekends to make this. And then I'll say I actually worked with a client, and then I'll turn it into a desktop app and a web app. Because you C#, you could use like a WinForms app or WPF app, UWP app, all these kinds of C# desktop apps, and I'll put it on Blazor, and then I'll make like a mobile app in Xamarin. I was completely out of my mind because after 2 weeks, like I had almost nothing. I spent 7 months. I
Yeah.
was still working and taking care of my kid a lot during this time, but 7 months working on this app, and then I finally had to be like, and this person kept asking for more and more and more features, and I was like, I must have really low self-esteem because I keep working on this, and this is not going to help me get a job. So I was like, no, we're done. The app is done. So it's going to be on my resume, but it's really a shame because that is not the kind of app that an employer would care about.
Yeah, the craziest thing is that it's even though you can do those things and you could nerd out and you could get very specific, there's a certain demand in the market, and you need to basically not build the things you want to build, but you have to build the things that showcase that you could do the work that you're going to get hired for. And that's why I kind of, coming back to this bug tracker idea that Code Foundry has. And, I was going to build a bug tracker, but I decided that I'm going to make a project management teams tool just so it's similar but different. But here's the thing, like I want to say to you guys, and you literally hit the nail on the head with this one, is that the console app that you did, it's like really cool, really like whatever, but on day-to-day work that you would perform as a junior level developer in terms of as a web developer, it would not like be relevant at all. And so what I realized looking at the bug tracker app that Code Foundry recommends, or anything in that type of level where you have authentication, CRUD, and this idea of different users who have different permissioning, which already sounds hard. But when, like, I already worked at 2 different companies, and I'm 100% able to tell you that if you're able to build a bug tracker all by yourself, you will get the job, because everything that you learn from building a bug tracker is everything that I still do on day-to-day at my development. I'm working with CRUD, I'm like authentication, getting data, putting data in the databases. And that's why, like if I could, I would literally show you the work project I building at work, but I can't, like I'll get fired. So I don't. But what I do is every project that I want to build on my Tuesday night stream, I am making sure that I'm doing all the functionality that I'm required to do at work. Like for instance, like on my stream, we talked about, logging in. We talked about, idle timeout when people leave their mouse and the thing has to log out by itself. Or we want to send an email to, reset password, or like all this stuff, or like we want to, add data. It's basically everything I do on day-to-day work. And that's why building something like you don't have to build a bug tracker. You could build a bunch of like store stuff, whatever. But I think you're going like that extra step of building something
but
complex
isn't that the
enough.
perfect project though?
I think so.
I mean, Code Foundry really convinced me, because I was like, okay, because they know. I thought of a CRM too, which is close enough. But anyone hiring programmers works with a bug tracker, and it's the classic business app, because you've got authentication, you have roles, you have assigning to different roles, you have a database, and so what? Let me tell you this theory, and if you think this is good. So what I've done in my mind is I've said, okay, for the next 2 years, I'm gonna just. Hopefully I'll have many different jobs in that time, but I will keep working on the bug tracker. That is going to be my one side project for 2 years. I'm not going to let myself indulge in whatever. Like instead of going to a coding boot camp, what would have been worth 15 grand for me is if I just paid someone to stand near me. And as soon as I said, you know what would be really cool? It's like, why don't I build a Sega Genesis in Blazor? Like build a Nintendo emulator and just punch me in the mouth like as hard as possible.
Same.
Be like, I am going to put a gun to the head of your kid. If you just only work on a bug tracker, don't do that. Like I really love Nintendo, and I went down a whole assembly language rabbit hole.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And I was like hacking games. I could do Hello World on the original Nintendo in just straight binary. And it was like,
you know what? Like, so here's the thing. Like,
about this. That's like assembly language and binary.
This is what I'm going to tell you.
Like, no one cares.
I'm going to cut you off here for a second, because, like, I tried assembly, and like, there's a certain level of like my brain is like, nah, I can't do this. This is too hard. And so for me, like, if someone tells me like I'm able to do this in assembly, like, I'm like, you're smart enough to get a job with regular coding. You just have to do those projects. That's what, but that's the point that what you're saying is that
I don't know.
Like, no, but the point that I'm saying is don't do that stuff. Just do the regular coding stuff. You're smart enough. Like, you don't have to like go down these rabbit holes. And I wasted a lot of time too. And it's 100%. It's like you really have to be able to build the stuff that that mimics the thing that the regular work cycle for the junior level developers that work at a company. And so for me, when I talk about authentication, talk about CRUD, I talk about working with APIs, I'm not making it up. It's because just the day before, my boss asked me to do something that's in one of those categories. And I'm like, hey, if people know how to do that, they're going to get hired. But so I like your idea of being like, Bug Tracker is my app for 2 years. So I am doing the same thing like with my dev hunt project. And I
love that project.
We're going to continue building it, but I have a different spin. Before I kind of made it like Dev Hunt, it was very specific to developers, but now I'm switching it to where anybody could create a team to share their project, and they could have same functionality, except it's more general towards like people could be artists, people could be developers, people could be whatever. But just because like I'm a big believer in having a cornerstone project. It's kind of like I never graduated of college, so I'm only guessing here. But if you're like working on your PhD, you have like this main thesis you're working on, which is like your big thing.
Right.
You might be doing little things around it. So like what I realized, like I'm older, I don't have enough time. So I'm going to have a cornerstone project, and that cornerstone project, no, listen, World War III tomorrow. Not even kidding. No, but cornerstone project is basically what's going to guide me what I need to learn. So if I'm building my, Teams app, for instance, learning how to make tic-tac-toe with JavaScript doesn't help me, but learning how to make a table that will show data with JavaScript and HTML and CSS or React makes perfect sense. And so like I'm going to learn that instead of how to make a tic-tac-toe app. So my main cornerstone project helps me guide what I need to learn. And so I'm not learning random stuff that's not relevant to that project. And that's why I kind of like that idea. So I'm not saying people can't make these little throwaway projects, but like, for instance, I'm going to use the table example, but I made a table in CodePen to learn how to do it because I knew that I'm going to have a bunch of different applications where I need a table, right? And so I'm trying to make sure that I'm only doing things that help me move forward on like the big project. And before we ask you some more questions, let me just say hello to Artur here. What's up, man? And then Engine Boy says, anyway, got some general ideas from Luke's one. Okay, fantastic. So anyway, so since we're talking about, go ahead. Go.
I was going to say, what I've realized too with portfolios? This just hit me today. I can see why interviewers have to test for other things like the controversial, crazy, difficult coding algorithm tests and stuff. But how good your portfolio is mainly just how many hours have been put into it. Because if you work on it for a portfolio for 2 years, like if I do, like a good developer, maybe they would get that done in 4 months.
Yeah.
Maybe it takes me 2 years. But people think, oh, this person's a genius just because their portfolio project is so good. But it's really just the sheer amount of time. Like someone with a great portfolio project might be an incredibly slow coder and a terrible employee, but they just kept going at their portfolio project and were persistent. So it can be a superpower in a way.
It is, and this is what I say to people. The reason why I say about having one cornerstone project is because you want to become a master of a certain domain, and whatever that is. Like for you, in your case, it's C#. For me, was React and stuff like that. And so, you want to kind of immerse yourself in one thing, because you want to get to a point where you could comfortably talk about it. And whenever you're in an interview, they should randomly like go like this in your code, like you spin the globe and you put your finger there. Right. And wherever it lands, you should be comfortable talking about the code, why you did it, even if it's wrong. You should be like, I did it this way because I didn't know any better, and I know there might be a better way of doing it, but this works, and this is why I did it. So I'll give you an example. I was interviewing for, before I tell you the story, so yes, there's algorithm type of tests, and most of these are asked by, FANG type of companies, but there's plenty of companies that will ask you to build something for them, like as a take home. And I think regardless wherever you interview, like if you have a portfolio and you're happy with the project that you have, then you could spend time learning algorithms and data structures because that's like your weakest link. But if you don't have a portfolio, I feel like you need to build one, because every interview I had, and the recent one I had was really awesome because they gave me a week, which was, I felt like it was enough time. And they like build this full stack application. In my case, wasn't like completely full stack because I cheated. But the point, I didn't cheat. I used their software that the company makes to build the
Okay,
backend. So it's not cheating. I was
cool.
using the stuff they were testing me on. But like basically I spent 40 hours, which was kind of rough because I was already working 40 hours. So then I had to do this project
Oh my gosh.
because it was 40 hours. But the cool thing about it is like I built it myself. I knew exactly what I did. And then on the interview, they literally had me demonstrate the project. And then they asked me questions about it. And they were like, everything they pointed on, like I was able to give them an answer. And so in their mind, I came across as being very competent because I could answer their questions about the code base I was working in. And
Right.
one of the most important questions they asked me that kind of threw me off guard, but because I built the project myself, and this is why I preach to everybody, build stuff from scratch, or I'm going to smack you guys in your heads. But because I built this project myself, I knew its shortcomings. And so one of the, or things that maybe I got stuck at. And so the question they asked me, it's like, you know, spending a week building this project, what would you do differently? And I was like, wow, that's like a crazy question, because that implies that not only do you have to understand what you did, but you also have to understand enough about coding that there might be a better way. And if I had more time, I probably would have tried this way or this thing. And to them, it's like I felt kind of cool because like in 40 hours, I did this. This is what you got. But then they also knew
Right.
that by asking that question that I went beyond that and thought about my application and thought about like what improvements, or given more time, what would have done. And in my case, I ran into like a big issue trying to implement GraphQL, which I really wanted to do because the way they implemented GraphQL has changed. And so I couldn't do it. I had to do it like, you know, a different way, whatever. And to me, like I had an answer. I'd be like, oh, now like building this, I discovered that now you're implementing this a little bit differently. I told them about what they're doing, and given more time, I would have re-implemented like GraphQL based on the change that you made. And like to me, it's an awesome answer, at least in my mind, is because it shows to them that you thought about what you built, you learned from the building experience, and then you thought about already what improvements you could have done to make the app better. And that's what people want to see, is they want to see that you're able to feel comfortable in your code and talk about stuff. And so I think we're gonna, like, not right now, but
Let
I
me
think
ask you this question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What do you think about people? The advice I got was like, oh no, don't, for your portfolio project, don't try to like build anything. Just get a video course on Udemy that's like 20 hours of, that's focused on one project. Then blindly type in the course. Don't retain anything, and then just make some cosmetic changes.
Yeah.
Like if it's like a recipe app, make it a music, organization app or something, and then put that as your cornerstone project.
And you
and
know
that's
what?
only taken maybe 30 hours. But
yeah, some people have done
I didn't do
that.
that, and I sort of, maybe I was stupid because everything was just, okay, how do I do authentication? Oh my gosh. How do I work with a database? And just doing one thing at a time. So, which was probably a disastrous decision.
So to me, I'd say it's a gamble, but I know a lot of people that did follow that path and were able to get hired. Here's the consensus I get from them. And I was in a similar boat at the beginning of my journey. I didn't know enough about what I did in some of my portfolio projects when I got my first job. And so I had 6 months where I literally felt I'm going to get fired because I had no idea what I was doing. And I was forced because not really understanding what I did in my project to get hired in the first place, I was forced to go home after work and study anyway for additional 20, 30 hours a week. And it was like the first 6 months was very, very stressful. So I think that strategy could work until people call you on it. And if you're doing an interview and they start really asking you questions, and if you're not able to answer the questions
Right.
or understand so the caveat being, let's say you copied somebody's project and you paid so much attention, you actually learn, and you know that you could rebuild that project yourself if you wanted to, then you'll have no problem, it's fine. But from my experience, what I would say, if you're starting out, do 1, 2, 3, 4 tops. 4, don't go more than 4 Udemy courses. That's like a waste. I only completed like 4 Udemy courses out of like 500 courses that I have. And so what you need to do after that is just build your own project. I still gonna keep coming back to this idea of like building your own thing might be slower, might be harder, might not be as fun, but like I could like easily right now, Luke, like say to you, show me, and we could actually do this in a few minutes, but like open up your project in VS Code and describe to me like your code base. You will be able to do it. You might not be 100% sure about something, but you'll be able to do it. Why? Because
I know every line.
You know why? Because at some point you got stuck somewhere and it made you pull your hair out, but you like persevered through it and you got it done. And that stuff you're not going to forget. You're not going to forget. Like when you put your hand on the fire, on the hot pan, you're not going to forget that. And that's why I tell people, you know, build the thing from scratch. And this is why I love having you on. The fact that you're doing the things that I talk about is because you're like a proof for me, like to tell people, like, don't be idiots. Build your stuff from scratch. Burn yourself a little bit to understand that the experience from failure and learning from it and updating the code and making it work is going to be far more greater than any tutorial you're going to take. And so to me, like, I wish more people, like, if I would say what mistake I made is to be in tutorial hell forever, where I just kept going from one tutorial to another tutorial to another tutorial and not putting a hard stop and saying, it's like learning to swim. It's like your parents could hold you every day. But at some point you got to push your kid in the pool and be like, hey, whatever. You know what I mean? And so you got to do that with coding.
I never get in tutorial hell anymore. I call it tutorial heaven because I'm not super keen on video courses, not sounding pretentious or anything. But I have some pretty eccentric ways I learn. And half of what I do now is I make these recipes. I think I got this from the Lex Friedman podcast. It was Jim Keller, I think, the famous CPU designer. And he says he thinks of everything in terms of understanding and recipes. And that completely blew my mind and changed my life because I have one way I get understanding, which is I import the book into Super Memo and I use its incremental reading thing. And it's very amazing, but eccentric. And then I also build recipes from either a book or a video course. And this is where video course is good. Is I can show you on my screen if you want to see one.
Let's like share some stuff. Let's
But
some
what I do when I take a course, and is this working? Can you see?
Yeah, just like make it bigger. Let me put you right there. Boom. Let me add you on the screen here. Wait, damn it, that's too big. Let me.
Where's a good example? So I will go just step by step through the whole course. Lots of screenshots. I use this awesome program called Obsidian, and you can it's all in markup language. So if I was starting over again, the first thing I would do is just learn some markup for taking notes. And you can link your this is embarrassing. When it's working, it has everything. I have like lots of tags. And I'll have all these different recipes of how to do different things. And there's lots of screenshots. So I will either have these little snippets of how to do something.
Yeah.
And I will link it to other things. And it's also tagged. So like everywhere for, how to do a delete endpoint in ASP.NET. This is in minimal API. So then I'll maybe have how to do a delete endpoint, in MVC. Or something else. So I will link things together. I got this method called
That's very smart
or something.
Very smart.
I'm trying to find a good recipe to show you, but some of this is
so
here we go. Here's one. Here's a course I took that was 3 hours on authentication.
Yeah.
And everything is a screenshot with arrows, and I made sure that I can build just from my notes. And you might think, okay, that's ridiculous. Why not just watch the video and build from the video? But I use this every day because I will refer to this and and I
Just
will, and then all these, you can link to all these headings. So I
yeah,
will be in something else and I'll search for either just how to add a chorus policy or just this part. And then I
yeah.
remember, oh yeah, this is how I do it. And here's all these steps. So even if I knew nothing about coding, if my memory was released, I could build authentication just from following this recipe.
So I have like $1 billion idea. If anybody wants to take you more than open. So like I think it's brilliant, and I think having something like you have there is super awesome. My only thing about that is that it's so much work up front, and I'm so lazy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's worth it. So here's my $1 billion idea. So I do similar thing like you, but because I don't want to lie to people, I am lazy. So I have a mental mind map of where I have all these patterns of stuff that I did in the past in my GitHub, and I basically would reference my GitHub when I need to see that pattern. So here's the $1 billion idea. Do the thing that you're doing, but it links to the code in the GitHub or examples that you, I'm not saying you should do it, but you wrote. But I think for me, there'll be like a good middle ground where you have a main repo, kind of like you had your thing on the left, but instead of pointing to the nodes that you physically wrote, it points to certain links. I think I'm going to do it this way, actually, now that I think about it. And GitHub, where you have that. But basically, you have reference to patterns. Like the short of it is you created a recipe book of common patterns that even if you forget it, you have an easy way and reference because it's searchable. I think it's pretty awesome. I just, I'm jealous and ashamed because for me, I'm too lazy to put in the effort. But I know the time that it will save, because now, and you could constantly review it. And by the way, even though I make video tutorials, 100% the reading notes is the fastest way to review material and be able to kind of, remember things, because you could fast skim. And a lot of times it's not even reading the whole thing. It becomes like a certain sentence you read will be a trigger for you to remember something. And then you're like, oh shit, I remember how to do this. And you do it. It's awesome. Hold on. I want to say hi to this guy. Endpoint. He's a computer science dude. Awesome dude. He's been on our show. Dude, Andre, we gotta, Alvin. I can't even remember your name. I'm so bad. It's Alvin. We gotta chat. Also, I had this Discord. I gave up on Discord. So if you're on my Discord, I'm sorry, I gave up. If you want to reach me by email, codingafter30 at gmail.com. I have a private community that I'm starting. It's still in alpha, super alpha, because I don't even have time for that. But I'm trying to.
Super cool.
You're there, yes. And I will make it more publicly available once my schedule's better, because I'm very bad on social. And so for me, I don't want to overextend myself. Yeah, so nice.
Yeah, that's wise.
Yeah, and the point, it's got 23 credits left. Yeah, it's fantastic, man. Alvin is an awesome dude. So I definitely have to have more chats with him. And so
so how did you get your first job, Paul?
So here's you asked me that question before on my live stream, and I kind of wanted and I talked about it because here, let me back up. So you're very entrepreneurial, and what I was going to say, most programmers don't kind of have that. And what I say at people, this is the reason why this channel exists. This is why I have a half-assed blog with few articles on coding, and that's why I have LinkedIn. And this is why I try to put content out there. I'm just better at talking on video, so I do more video content. But if you're if you take your notes, right, and you publish them as blogs, just already copy and paste what you have and share it on LinkedIn, I think it's a good way to showcase to people that you're living the world and doing that. And I would 100% recommend it. And now I'll leave it to the story.
Did you do technical tutorials?
I've done some, but they're really bad. But it's better than nothing, because it just shows that you're getting out there.
I have one. It's so cringe. Oh my gosh.
But that's okay. That's okay. Do more. I would say take your notes and make a blog, because I know it's a reference you made for yourself, but like,
Right.
yeah, you could hide your secrets from people, but you could also share it because it's going to be useful for
Distill
somebody
it.
else.
Yeah. Right.
And then
The
also it's
ultimate.
building your authority as the person who made him. He must know what he's doing
Right.
because he made that information. And so, like, I think the power of marketing yourself is super duper important. And I'll come back to this key point in a second. But the first key point is that, number one, you need to, if you're looking to get a job as a developer or any job you want, like, is easiest way to get it through someone you know. And this is the unfortunate fact about life, and this is why I talk about making sure you make connections, you have like real friends who are developers, because at the end of the day, it's easier to ask them to ask, like, hey, does your company have an opening, or do you know anybody, and can you give my resume to your boss, and can you give my resume to the boss? Like, I'm not saying that's how you ask someone to do it, but if I know Luke and Luke gives me his resume and I go to my boss who doesn't have time to fucking, excuse me for swearing, to fish through a bunch of other resumes,
Please.
and I say to him, look, I know Luke, he's a really good job, he does coding, here's his resume, I think he'll be a perfect fit here. My boss will look at Luke's resume first, and he will at least give him an interview. It's up to Luke to decide how well he does an interview, but he could get a interview based on my referral. And at the same time, like, I have to have pretty confidence in Luke. Like, if I didn't have confidence in Luke, I'm using it as an example, I would not give him the resume to my boss. So it's like a two-way street. It's like you should be able to do the skill so you don't embarrass your friend by being a bad reference. But at the same time, when your friend gives that resume to somebody else in your company, it will be the easiest way to get on the interview. And I'm not saying it's the only strategy, but if you're not trying to use this strategy, you should. If you don't have enough friends who are in the circle, figure out how to make more friends. I know it sounds kind of bad and like whatever, but it's always easier to get into something as a referral. So if you're in sales, the best time to make another sale is when you ask for a referral from a happy client. It's just the truth. It's the way it works. Like, so when I used to do sales, I would always, after the sale, ask the person to give me a referral rather than trying to find a cold lead, because selling cold is like really difficult. And, you know, most of my clients were like referral based or word of mouth. And it's the same thing you want to do when you're looking to get hired. And so that was my first job, is basically my friend's wife. She worked at a company where they needed a React developer, and she literally gave him my resume. And because like the boss was busy, he's like, yeah, you know what? Like, let's have this dude come in. And then luckily I did really well. I didn't think I did really well, but he must have thought, because I got hired, or they were desperate, whatever it is, on the interview, but I got hired. And so you need to basically, that's the way to do it. And I tell
Have you worked with recruiters at all?
So I did work with recruiters, and here's one thing that I discovered. There's good recruiters, there are bad recruiters. And a lot of recruiters, what they want to do is they want to make money, and they want to make money as quickly as possible. So like, this is what recruiters won't tell you. And I have a very good friend of mine who's a recruiter, but she's also an awesome recruiter. She's not one of these scammy people. But she said, when people looked at your LinkedIn and their recruiter, the first thing they look at if you have a job already. That's number one. That's the first thing. This is a secret. I spilled the beans. But if I'm a recruiter,
wow,
the first thing I'm going to do is to see if someone is already working in the field. Because that's the easiest person for me to get a job, because they're already working. They already got a job. So half my work is done, like, because they have the experience. And so that, like, they're going to help you get your second job. So that's the hardest part, is getting a recruiter to help you when you're starting out. And there's a lot of recruiters, but they're not all the same and not equal. And this is why I say you want to put things in your favor. You want to reach out to recruiters. You want to, you know, make sure you're making friends. And I'll tell you a funny IBM story in a second.
okay.
And you want to basically try to have a multi-pronged approach where you try to hit every base. Like, I'm going to be putting like articles on LinkedIn on coding, like whatever. I'm going to be reaching out to my friends with my resume. I'm going to be talking to the recruiters. And like I have a blog for a reason, because I want to share those articles on LinkedIn, or my videos on LinkedIn, because I want people to see that I'm involved in this sphere. And also, here's the thing that I found out, because I watched somebody else's video that kind of started doing the same thing. They actually started doing first, and then I was like, oh, this makes sense. If I put a video on LinkedIn, this is my logic. It could be complete garbage. I'm just telling you out there. If I put a video on LinkedIn showing how to implement authentication in Python, that probably means I know how to implement authentication on Python, in Python. Or if you have a blog that shows this is how you get data in C#, they're probably like, so if you do quick articles, don't spend too much time, but something like you said, like if you take your notes and share them, like in a LinkedIn post, you're gonna build, like, not saying it's gonna guarantee you get a job, but it's gonna give you extra oomph in talking power, because you could be like, oh, I've been publishing articles about everything I've been learning, blah 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 blah, and I'm taking a long time to get there. Yeah, nice. I'm taking like forever to get there, but number one, knowing someone is easier, you know. Like, that's why inside trading is so messed up, is because people know the secret from somebody else and they make $bajillion. So that works, you know. So if you know someone, that's the fastest way to get a job. The second way is to, you know, you have to understand, you have to show your experience somehow. So if you're not talking about your experience, who is talking about your experience? Nobody. That's why I'm originally on YouTube, because I wanted people, when they see Paul Broslavsky, they're like, he's a developer. That was like my big plan, is like, I'm going to talk to the world that I'm a developer. And
that's awesome.
like, it started as I wasn't, and then over time I started to have some sort of authority, and now people, oh, you have a YouTube channel, oh, you're a developer, oh, you have a blog, even though it has like 4 bad posts. It adds to your kind of authority. And so did you
find any, I'm sorry,
go ahead.
Did you find any main firms, recruiting firms to work with? Because I mentioned this in the C# world. I originally found this through Coder Foundry, actually, but like Tech Systems, the recruiting firm, they're huge. It's like half of all C# recruitment. And they've now, I'm told, have started doing a standardized assessment test for C# skills. So if you can, and the stuff on it is weird, because I always was using like the absolute latest stuff, like Blazor and .NET 6, but apparently the test is all, you know, like 15-year-old tech, like what all their clients actually use. So maybe I should have used that to make my portfolio. But I made a list. I've got 200 of like the most perfect recruiters, I think, in my CRM for this week. So I'm gonna reach out to them and hopefully get the Tech Systems test, and then hopefully I'll be on Easy Street. That's my plan.
No, you got it. Yeah, definitely do it, for sure. But this is the thing that I was gonna say, like, is that if no one else is gonna talk about you, you got to talk about yourself, and you got to, you know, promote yourself on LinkedIn through blogging, and even if it's extra work. And so I've been using a particular product. Like, I'm not gonna be obvious about it, because like I'll let you guys guess. If you know this channel, it's gonna be a very easy guess. But I've been using this product, talking about this product. Even you know, Coding Addict, like, is like, damn, Paul, you talk about this goddamn product way too much. You must be really in love about it. But I literally been using it for a long time. I've been working with it for a long time, to a point that I'm getting some sort of experience with it. And I actually reached out to that company that has that product, and they actually gave me an interview, because they have history of me talking about it. I am very knowledgeable about it. I'm very passionate about it. And so they're like, oh, at least we'll give you an interview. And so, like, if you, let's say, start making content about C# what you're learning, and I wouldn't do too much video content. Like, if you do video content, it's like super like 1 minute explainer stuff. Like, I like doing video. I like talking video, so I do it for my love of it. But in terms of time invested in it, that's kind of stupid. But like, I would do like,
you think blog more bang for the buck?
Yeah, like I would do like short articles. Like, if you take your notes, make them to blogs, that's perfect. Or then if you take a note and you make a brief example of how to implement and code video, which is like 1 minute to 2 minutes. I have a good friend
No.
on LinkedIn. I'll show you. He does the same thing with, like, he makes quick videos
Oh,
on
please.
Python. And I think like you want something that will give you the biggest buck for content that you could release that showcases one thing that you're learning and you're putting it out there. And so you want to be your own advocate. And so I knew a lot of people that, not a lot of people, I'm lying to you guys, but like I know me, who kind of fell in love with one technology, made content around it, and that was enough to get someone's attention because I was involved in the community. And I knew another girl who did the same thing with Next.js. She built a bunch of stuff with Next.js. She talked about it, and you know, when she went to apply to Next.js, she was able to refer all those things. She's like, I have a blog about Next.js. I build this thing in Next.js, blah, 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 blah. And so, like,
Awesome.
it was much easier for them to be like, oh, yeah, we'll give you an interview because you're not showing up empty-handed.
What do you think about? I had this idea yesterday. To an easier way to make blog content was you could take any code and you could just write out a description of what every line does.
Yeah.
And that's not as intimidating because when I read most articles, I'm like, oh, I'm so stupid. I could not think of,
that's a good idea.
Interesting things to say about this framework. But I can take my app or any app I'm working on, or even just the templates, that we use, like if .NET comes with a bunch of different templates. So, what is Blazor WebAssembly? What does every line of the setup code do? What about Blazor Server? What does every line of the setup code do? I think that's going to be my first article because I don't really have to think of anything interesting. You just kind of research what does every line do and then say what it does.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I really like I think what I'm realizing, like, again, if I didn't like talking on video and making these like whatever videos, like I think content that saves people time, like right to the point. So I made a Strapi video and how to set up Strapi with Postgres. I had this practice channel that I did just for the hell of it. Yeah, I don't make videos there. I just did it as a side note one day, maybe. It was called like Practical Web Development. And I made this basic Strapi walkthrough how to set up Strapi with Postgres like in 3 minutes or so. And it it got like, compared to all my other content, it got very like good amount of views. It's because it's something people were searching, but it was also quick and to the point without any fluff, without talking. And it also, you know how you have your reference of notes? Like I could use that as a reference if I ever, not that I'm going to forget, but if I forget how to, install Strapi with Postgres, I could like see that quick 3-minute video. But I think shorter content that takes one idea only and explains it, and putting it out there that it's easier for people to consume and they could do it in more small chunks. It's probably a better bet to do. But like I was saying, in 99% of the case, this is going to sound bad because I'm on YouTube, is whenever I need to remember something or like how do you do this, it's always like finding an article. But what I've been doing lately is literally referencing my own GitHub of code that I already wrote. And so what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to try to do like what you did, but I'm going to make some
my thing is on GitHub. It backs up to GitHub automatically, and you can get a plugin for your blog that will take the GitHub stuff from Obsidian.
Yeah, and, so I should look into it because what I should probably like I'll at some point when I have like available time, like I am interested in the way you take notes, and I want to figure out a way to do like exactly what you're doing, but just link right to my GitHub. So like wherever I have like the best implementation of my, fetch data use form hook, whatever, like have that be the link that it goes to in my notes, like when I need an example. But that's basically like I like your like basically description of having recipes that you could reference or patterns that you could reference up, and it's the fastest way to be able to kind of remind yourself of what to do. And no, it's awesome.
Hey man, it's Ken, I'm gonna have to go soon. I'm so sorry. Do you want to look at lukebug.com, the world's foremost project management software?
Why don't we
exit?
Yes, I'm sorry that I've been killing your time. But yeah, let's go.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell us, show us
audience
your
can die
app.
Laughing.
Yeah, show us your app first, and then show us the Swagger, so we could see like how you have the endpoint set up, and then actually show us your code, so I could prove my point that if you wrote the code yourself, you could easily talk about the goddamn code than the code you learned from the tutorial. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah. Cool. So I'm just loading it.
Yeah, take it. Hold on a second. Let me,
Cool.
while you do that, answer a question. Hold on a second. I want to write blogs. I'm afraid some dev will read and tell me that I could have done this in a more efficient manner, and that approach is foolish. If a dev has time to look at somebody else's blog and complain about it, then they're not a real. They're a loser because they're wasting their, like, I don't know how, like, I forgot what I was going to say. But the point is, no, don't worry about it. It's like, it's fine because it's for your personal benefit as you're learning, and eventually you're going to get better. But if a dev, like if I'm a senior dev, I'll just say this, and I go to someone's blog and I see that they did something, and I have the time out of my day to complain and bitch and moan about their article without adding like helpful tips in a positive way, that I'm a complete loser. I'm just going to say that. So don't worry about that. That's a moot point. I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Yeah,
just write blogs. No one
feel
cares.
that way. You just got to get over it.
And people won't feel like, only lunatics like feel that they have to make a point and make someone feel bad about putting effort and writing articles. And if somebody like that happens, just block them or send their email to me. I'll go punch them in their face, figuratively speaking.
Wow.
All right, let's figuratively, not for real. Like in my imagination, like, with my words,
I'm the kind of person, if someone writes something mean, I will think about it every day for literally years.
Right,
like,
and this is why,
and this accumulates as you get older, I find.
Yeah, right, and this is why I say, like, I hate people like that, because people don't realize your negative comments will have effects on people's, behavior, and you could be messing somebody's life. Nobody likes negative things, like. People, this is what people don't say. Look, like, I'm sorry, like, you waste, like, I don't want to waste your time.
No.
I am,
of course not. Please.
I used to be the most negative person ever. I used to tell people all this stuff, and because I grew up when people were really mean to me too. Like, I used to be a bully, and then I realized it's a waste of time trying to have that much negativity in your life. So I got rid of all my negative friends. I only talk with negative people. If someone on YouTube, if I even detect like sense of negativity, I cut myself off them. And my daughter, who's 22 now, like, I was a terrible father part of my life. You know, she won't admit to it, but I know my mistakes I made. But one lesson that she learned from me is get rid of negative people in your life. And she doesn't have to deal as much bullshit. As people know, there's too much of that anyway. So it's like, don't have to worry about it. Anyway, let's go. That's
Put
your screen on. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's check out. I'm curious to hear from a front-end person, because I need to put a front-end on this that's not terrible. Can you see my screen?
Yes. So, like we were talking before, like earlier on the live stream, I think right now what you're doing, going for functionality first, is really good. But yes, this
ugly. Oh my gosh.
Yes. So I would say, like, and I told you how I bought like a Tailwind theme or whatever. Just once you're going to put your thing in the portfolio, just buy a theme and like get something that looks good where you don't have to worry about it. Even though it's a pain in the butt to kind of get it working.
What is that? I bought this theme. I'm going to implement it because it's in Bootstrap. I already got Bootstrap, which is
exactly right. Just copy the CSS. Perfect.
I could just use this theme.
I have this one, by the way.
It's so annoying. Oh.
I have this one.
Oh, do you? Do you like it?
I like it.
It's cool. It's got a cool dark mode, and it's cool.
The thing that I hate about pre-made themes is there's no simple way to, like, at least that I know of implementing it in my code outside of taking it piece by piece and breaking it down. So I feel your pain. But I think
it's going to take 15 minutes to do it. And I'm like, I am so stupid. This is such a pain. I could just copy this. Just look at that CSS, put it in.
Yeah, copy and paste.
It's like not really saving you that much work, but okay.
But at least you have a beautiful looking thing. You're like, think of it like you're paying for the design rather than like the actual whatever. Like, that's to me, and I think that's 100%. Make it implement some sort of like theming for sure. Okay.
So I'm just gonna walk you through real fast because this is really basic so far. So it has custom JWT authentication. A token is created on the server and sent back. So I have an admin role and a standard. Admin is Picard, of course, after Captain Jean-Luc Picard.
Yep.
And then there's tickets. call Paul, put on pants. These are tickets. Modal edit. You can delete tickets. It's CRUD. There's some bugs with the editing. So we can create a ticket. Hello, test ticket. Hello. So all I have to do is basically make this more and less. Okay, little bug there. Got to fix that. There's projects. Delete. Modal edit. The project's got to have, like priority, different things like that. But only the admin can create a project here.
Yep.
And then there's users and the roles they're assigned to. If I log out, you'll notice that I cannot create a project because
Yep.
I'm not an admin.
Yep.
So that's what I have. Here is the
Swagger.
backend in Swagger. These are all the endpoints I created. And what's really cool about Swagger is you can test, you can log on, and you can get the token. So I think if I do password 2. Yeah, so here's the authentication token, the JSON web token, and you can copy that, put it in authorize. Just got to take the quotes out. And now you can test all of the endpoints as authorized. So it's more convenient than using Postman or doing curl, where you're just setting up the header.
Yeah, it's super convenient.
That, of course.
Yeah, no, I love Swagger.
So yeah, and then we can get all tickets.
Here's the crazy thing.
That's what I have so far.
Quickly say, by the way, like scroll up a little bit so people could like really see this. Like all that is like documentation for all the endpoints you have with different methods like get, post. But here's the thing that I hate about how if you build a project and you don't have a good facing like template that makes it look good, people won't acknowledge this important stuff, the actual functionality. So it's kind of sad that if your application doesn't look good, people don't even get to this point of the functionality where it's actually the most important part, because that's the guts of the application that makes things work. So for those of you who are building stuff, use the template, make it look good. Don't like bang your head against the wall trying to figure it out. So that way when you showcase the stuff or you get to it. So no, that's awesome. But let's take a look at the code.
Uh-oh, this is the most embarrassing part. So we'll just look at the back end.
Yeah.
Real fast.
Yeah. Look at the
and then I'll show you the client too. So
no, let's look at the back end stuff, for now.
Okay. So, and this is on Azure, by the way.
Nice.
Having everything in the same GitHub project made deploying to Azure a real pain. So these are completely separate projects. I had it set up so whenever you push to GitHub, it would deploy the new version to Azure, but I've been basically doing FTP to just update it, going a little easier.
So let's.
This is using the new. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's walk through like the quick file structure and then like where and then you could talk about the code and stuff.
Okay. So it's using a SQLite database, so it's just a file, and I have SQLite viewer. I guess I'll put it on Azure SQL database when it's more developed. So this is nice because then you're only just working with one file, as opposed to you could use like MS SQL Server and then connect to that. But I found using SQLite, because the differences are not that great, that it works. It's a nice thing when you're just starting out with your project. So I use EF Core, not to be confused with Entity Framework, but the new open source EF Core is really cool because you can work with both SQL relational databases and non-relational databases like MongoDB or Azure Cosmos DB.
Yeah.
So basically I just did a code first approach. You create models. So we got a model for the project, the users, the ticket. This is all in the models folder. There's a DTO for when I'm actually.
So what does the model do?
So using EF Core, so you just do like .NET EF migrations, add initial migration. It will take these models. Once you do have to set it up, you have to set up a class called DB context.
Yeah.
and then it will create a database schema from that. So you don't really have to write any SQL yourself.
Yep.
But there's always little problems. So you kind of have to adjust it a little bit, but it's still pretty amazing. So in the migrations folder has all the setup of the database, and you can just use Visual Studio or use basic command line
Yep.
tools to set all this stuff up, all the keys. And it's basically the ticket project is table is, I guess, in a sense, the most complex one and will become more complex. And it joins with the projects and the users. So using different kinds of queries through EF Core, you say like get your ticket and include the list of all users with their tickets and get what project this is about and get the information from that project. So when you call the ticket, these are fields in the actual database, but here where we have the project type, this is actually linking to the project model.
Yep.
And this is linking to the user model, the user who created it, the user who is assigned, and it will pull in all the information on that users and projects. So you can build, in theory, really neat dashboards that have all the information there on your projects. And then in services, we have interfaces, which are kind of like an abstract class, which is kind of lay out how the class is going to go. And now I have all my endpoints here. These are services for when I actually execute the endpoint. So this is laid out in the interfaces, what they should return, how they should be. And so each one of these endpoints
Are you calling those services from your controllers?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And they just take the database. These are link queries, which is a cool thing about C#. It's kind of a functional little language for
querying
getting stuff from databases. And that's basically that. Now, since I'm using the minimal API, it's all set up just in this startup file of program CS. So I set up the way it works with these kinds of APIs, and also on Blazor on the client side, which we can see in a second, is you register classes as services in a centralized place, and then you inject those services using dependency injection at different parts of your app.
Yeah.
So here I have the service that has everything to do with users, everything to do with projects, the ticket service. Set up the controllers and make sure it all work with Swagger. This code here is neat because this allows you to do that test of the login stuff with Swagger. So this kind of just will set up a dummy user for Swagger testing. And this is just setting up the authentication scheme of using. There's different ways you can do authentication, obviously, in C#, but I'm using Microsoft identity model with their tokens and their JW Bear stuff for making tokens, but it's just basic JWT authentication. I'm not really using the fancy Microsoft identity or any of the stuff built into Azure, which I kind of thought it was like if this was a commercial app, I would use like OAuth or some third-party provider. But I thought for a demo app, it was cool to do that myself.
So like, because I haven't used Blazor, so app like map post, that's basically your controller.
Right, exactly. And that's because this is the minimal API.
So
if you did the non-minimal one, which is what most people are doing, which is probably what I should have done. Like if you do something called like an MVC project, there'll be a whole controllers folder, and there'll be many more attributes, and then you can more customize how each controller is handled. But my controllers, basically, they just call the service that I created. And this attribute here just says, okay, what kind of authentication scheme I'm going to use, what roles. And it's set up so if you want only the admin to access something, you just put roles admin. Very easy.
Yeah, that's sweet. It looks clean. Like I like this, the way this is done. It's pretty cool.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, that's basically the backend. I'll show you the client real fast.
Yeah.
Oh, and we can also, I'll run a local server with the backend, and then we can run the client locally. So I'm going to just open the client code. And debugging Blazor is horrible. They say it's amazing. And Microsoft Edge is almost set up. where you can look at C# code directly in the browser, just like you do with C#.
Wow.
I mean, just with JavaScript, but it does not actually work. I have only gotten it to work like once, and debugging the client in VS Code, it's supposed to attach to a browser, but it's
Yeah.
very finicky, and it works better in Visual Studio. But even in Visual Studio, I had to set something up where if it's debugging, it's going to wait, like a minute for the browser to get all set up and then attach to the browser, which is really annoying compared to JavaScript where it's just there.
Yeah.
So, okay, so this is the Blazor client. Same
Okay.
thing. It's
Yeah.
got services,
Yep.
but these services, like here's all the endpoints as strings.
Yep.
Here is the service that does the authentication. So it's using the authorization library from Microsoft, but everything is set up custom where you get the state authentication, get the token, compare your key to the key by the issuer, get the user information is sent for the token, what's the username, what kind of permissions do they have. Then there's two basic services for any kind of calls to the API.
Yeah.
So I just create a service for updating tickets, deleting projects, going to the endpoint. And these services will either do stuff to get everything set up, or it's just very basic and they'll just do a get request or a delete request. And for creating the actual HTTP client, I just have another service that gets that all organized and make sure the client's set up in the right way. Now, the cool thing, which is, I mean, this is old hat because you're a React guy, but the setup is very basic. I'm just setting up the services in a central place so they can be injected, adding authentic authorization. I'm adding a local storage so I can access the browser local storage. It's really cool to be writing C# in the browser, but it's actually not very good at manipulating the DOM. Like it has basic things that are set up you can do. But if you want to do anything at all fancy, you have to interrupt with JavaScript, which is ridiculous. So WebAssembly is absolutely not there yet at giving a seamless experience. So,
but I watched YouTube videos where they said it's take over the world.
Luke, I mean, it's super competitive in places where they write C#. If they already are doing C#,
exactly.
It's the same way. Like I don't think Node is competitive in the places where they need to use Java or C#. Like your bank is not going to use Node, but your bank is going to use C# or Java. And it's like, okay, we need a front end. This is way better than Razor Pages or MVC or the other Microsoft ways of doing things. So it's definitely a leap forward. But if you're doing front end or working with small companies, it's nowhere close to React or
but Angular. The thing is, if you got a team of C# backend developers, you're going to be using Blazor on the front end. Just because why hire more people if you already have the access for the developers? It just makes sense. Same thing like the reason why I do Node and JavaScript and React, because it just makes sense to them just to have me rather than hiring extra different people. Like
Node is amazing, like on a smaller team. But
you don't have to be nice.
I won't bore you with this more, but just what's cool is, so this is you can write C#. For example, here's the HTML markup. These are the things you import. You're injecting or your namespace. We get to use the C# namespace. Routing is really simple with page. We can do a special layout if we want for each page. And then below the code block, we can write actual C# in the browser, which is pretty cool. All you have to do is add code, or you can put in another file if you like. So, and basically, these are the pages. And then under shared, we have components. So actually creating the ticket form is just a component that we inject into the page. So create project form is, that whole thing is now just where it says create project in the markup is that thing. So this file in shared is all just represented by this one line. And you can pass events. You can pass little bits of HTML, render fragments it's called, from the parent to the child. So you can make a really complex app. Mine's just looks hideous and horrible and laughable. But let's take a look at the client in debug mode, and I'll show you how hilarious it is, how long it takes Blazor to start up. And you'll feel very, very safe being a React developer when you see how long it takes a Blazor WebAssembly app. And they're working on a WebAssembly version of React, I know. There's a bunch of annoying nullable warnings.
Yeah, that was my whole thing about like WebAssembly. I'm sure somebody smarter than I am is going to create like an implementation that will compile whatever I write into WebAssembly. Um, yeah, that was like my
Yeah.
thought on that topic.
Where is it?
Like,
Oh, definitely. And there'll be JavaScript scripting
yeah,
React or
right,
TypeScript, and then it's the turn into. So look at this.
yeah,
Just to start, it's loading up a tiny .NET runtime. It's 9.11 megabytes, which on
yeah,
your phone, that's annoying, man. That is
yeah,
a
yeah,
lot for the web.
yeah,
So that's that's basically how it works. So that's what I have
yeah.
so far. Um, and despite its flaws, I'm going to start hustling really hard and see how
No, you
many
do
recruiters laugh at me.
you're no, you're doing amazing. Like, and I would say like putting that hyper admin dashboard. It's going to be some like pain in the ass and work to do.
Right,
But what I want to say, first of all, I want to come back to my point that I made earlier in the video. I talked about how everybody should be making projects from scratch, and my biggest argument for that is that's the best way to learn. And you know, just go rewatch the live stream to see what I said before. But one thing that I'm going to say now is that look how easily Luke was able to talk about his code base, his code. He wrote it himself. He struggled with it. He figured stuff out. That's the stuff he's not going to forget. And this is why I tell you guys, like, if we were into, and this is why I asked him some questions like, oh, is that a control? Is that like this? Is that that? Because I wanted him to just
right,
talk about like the things that I ask him questions. Because on an interview, like, if people point anywhere in your code, like I was saying, spin the globe, put your finger here, you should be
right.
able to talk about what you wrote. And so to me, like this is a good barometer of how well are you doing as a developer learning and preparing to get a job, is how easily and well can you talk about your code. And so you seem like very confident and very like easily able to talk
Oh,
about it, know
thank you.
exactly, you even knew
Thank
like,
you.
oh, there's a bug, like I know where it is, like blah blah. And so to me, that's the
Right.
most important thing people should practice is, and this is why I talk about, put, again, don't make these massive videos, don't make these massive blogs, but quick and to the point, like some of the things that you implemented, how you did, so you could share with other people what you're doing, and showcasing that you know how, like what you talked about, and getting it like on LinkedIn, whatever. I think is so important. But man, great job, and I really like
Oh,
all the stuff that you did,
please.
and like doing full stack development from the beginning is like it's not an easy thing, and so
I couldn't
very
believe how hard it was.
yeah, and very awesome. Like I said, like you're like able to talk about stuff like so easily and so well. Like that's a great
Oh, please.
sign, you know. So it's awesome. Like,
Thank
um,
you.
you know,
Thank you. It's
so
C#.net, Mr. Q. Q just asked, what language is this on?
yeah,
It was
yeah, it's
C#.net.
C
Using
sharp.
Blazor,
Yep, Blazor, all the new
C
stuff.
Sharp, .NET 6.
React all the
So,
way.
so once I get the CRUD, no bugs in CRUD at all. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go real deep to CSS. I think it'll feel much cooler when it has
Yeah, I like your approach.
real
Get the
CSS.
functionality first, because to me that's where the most important part is. Because you could always
Yeah.
fix CSS, like whatever, but yeah, functionality is important. But man, I know like I want to be mindful of your time. I want to say thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you so
You're
much for
welcome to
having
come
me.
anytime,
I hope
anytime.
I
Because
didn't
I like
embarrass you too bad.
no, no, not at all. I love having conversations with real people that are real, like
Yeah.
trying to like make this transition in real life. And don't. There you go. You should have worn the whole stream, man.
My
Like,
coder glasses.
there you go. I need to
Excellent
get coder
pilot. Well,
glasses.
have me one. We should talk again when I'm reaching out to 200 recruiters, gonna apply to
Yep.
300 jobs,
Nice.
and then we'll see how humiliating it is, and we can talk about it. And people watching, hook up with me on LinkedIn. I've got almost 20,000 LinkedIn friends. I don't
Yeah.
know what the utility of that is, but I can connect you to
Just
someone.
that's a
maybe
big
real
number. I bet if I went to a bar right now and said I have 20,000 LinkedIn, if I was a single man, I should add to be if my
quick.
fiance
Women will be all over you. Wow.
they're like, oh
Yeah.
my god, LinkedIn,
Funny
is
you
that like
think that
the,
must mean
they'll be like, is that the
money?
new
No.
Tinder? It's
Exactly.
like, whatever. No, it's
That's
always
funny.
awesome. Like I love having a conversation about like reality of what it's like, and kind of having these real life examples where people get an idea of like what it really takes, and this idea of exactly like I think like and like if you didn't come on this live stream, I would have never figured this out. I think a good barometer for you guys to know how well you guys do as a developer is how comfortably can you talk about the code that you wrote. Like, because if you're like
Right.
and about like what you're doing, stuff. So definitely, Awesome. Very glad to have you. I know, like, I don't want to keep you
Yeah, thanks for having
forever.
me, man. Thank
Really
you for all the
appreciate you.
inspiration. I'm
Yeah.
serious, those Saturday streams really, really, really keep me
Yeah, I
going.
gotta bring those
So
back. I stopped
you're
doing those
helping a
for a
lot
little
of
bit,
people,
but like,
man.
yeah, no, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
It's really very seriously inspiring,
Yeah, and
and
you want
it's pretty much every day I feel like giving up. So you
oh,
definitely keep me
my
going,
God,
and it means a
dude.
lot.
Yeah, no, it's a thank you so much. And listen, guys, I
Thank
just
you.
want to say, like Luke says,
Boom, voting after
like
30 Army.
yeah, he feels like giving up. Let me tell you guys, I feel like giving up a lot. And if you feel like giving up, it's a normal feeling. It's a frustrating feeling, but at the same time, like, just keep going. Just say fuck it, just do it. Just keep
Yeah.
going, keep going, keep going.
What if?
Because yeah, what if? Exactly. What if
Yeah,
things
it's gonna
happen for
feel
you?
so good when you get there. So
But
worth it. Well, all right. Thank you for having me.
yeah,
Good night,
thank you so
everyone.
much, bro. I'll see you
Bye
later.
bye.
Take care. Bye. Man, that was awesome stream. I think that was like one of my best streams ever. I love talking to people who are like doing the grind, doing the thing, really trying to put an effort. And it's none of that BS, stuff you see like on YouTube, like how easy, like it's the reality of the facts of life. And I really appreciate it. And by the way, Vinyl, I wanted to jump into your statement. Here you said, I paid the founder of a well-known learn-to-code platform on Fiverr to critique my portfolio website. He trashed my website design, my code, and my project. He told me code was beginner code. Basically, whoever that guy is, sent me his name so I could tell to his face that guy was a fucking asshole. You should never, ever, like, do these things in life, like trash somebody's code, talk badly about someone, because how does that help someone to get better? So that guy was an asshole, Vinyl guy. I just wanted to say that, just so we're all on the same page. Sorry that you had that experience. I was so upset, almost dropped out of the web development, and haven't felt the same about learning since. Fuck that guy. You know what I mean? Like, that guy is a piece of shit. I normally don't swear on my live streams, but that guy deserves it. Anyway, I just wanted to say that, Vinyl guy. I'm sorry that you had that experience. It's messed up. Like, no, like, this is the thing I was gonna say. Like, everybody already suffers with stuff in their life, the difficulties. Look at the world, what's happening. And I mean, granted, thank God, like, I can't even begin to say how none of us who are able to actually talk right now, like, are suffering. Like, look at what's going on. My heart goes out to everybody. But the point, what I'm saying is that negativity never gonna help anybody. So the fact that someone treated you that way, like, and couldn't give you any helpful criticism, that guy's a piece of shit. And I'm just gonna say it how it is. But anyway, Q says, keep making more videos like this, Polly Luke the Duke. Yeah, I love the names, Polly, Luke the Duke. Yeah, dude, I love it. No, Q, always great to see you. Always great to see everybody. Obviously, everybody who was able to make it, I really appreciate. Because I don't care about the BS. I care about doing things that help people to make changes in their lives and get to where they want to go. Because at the end of the day, life, man, I don't even have to give you like, dude, if you see what's going on right now in the world and how lucky, like, a lot of us are, we have no right to complain. We should be thankful for every opportunity we get. And so, giving time to negativity is just such a waste of any effort. So anyway, with that being said, I want to thank all of you guys who tuned in. Thank you so much. I will be back on Saturday. I'm changing all my, I'm going to keep doing the Tuesday live stream. It's going to be 9 p.m. Eastern time. And I'm going to do the Saturday live stream, 9 p.m. Eastern time. I decided to do it at that time just because it's easier, because after this, I could just eat and sleep or watch a movie, and so it's perfect time for me. And it seems that a lot more people have easier time getting to this live stream time, whatever. Idrissa says this some hard truth, but it's what it is. We got to keep moving in the minds of negativity. Yeah, like that is true. Like, because what else can we do? What else? We could just take one foot after another, move forward one step at a time. And like I said, nobody's perfect. Nobody's squeaky clean. Like, this is why I hate some of this cancel culture that's going on. I'm not saying people don't deserve to be called out for their nonsense, but it's nobody's squeaky clean. We all have things that we carry and things that we have to suffer through. So stop trying to, make people feel even worse. Just focus on your own thing. and how can you better yourself so you could then better your community, your friends, and everybody around you. Man, I love all of you guys. And Arisa, thank you so much, Paul. I'm sorry I was late for the tonight. No, don't apologize. That's why they're recorded, so you guys could rewatch the stream. But I really appreciate the community we have here, because at the end of the day, I get so happy when I get to chat with you guys. I feel so happy to share our time together. Like, I consider all you guys as like my friends. And the most important part is that we are surrounded by like-minded individuals who don't believe in the easy way, don't believe in the silver bullet or the one course that's going to change your life. It's all about consistency, hard work, and doing what it takes a little bit at a time so it becomes a habit, and keep at it. And so thank you so much. And I'm going to bid well good night. Keep on doing what you're doing. And to all my friends that are watching it from places that are not safe, I hope you stay safe. I hope things work out for everybody. And with that being said, have a good night.